How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about things that you want to unlock on your account before you get into PvM. For you guys that have already got into PvM, click off of the video, just stick around because there may be something in here that you may not have unlocked yet and you may be sort of thinking, is it worth my time to invest to get it? So hopefully if there is something like that, I can answer those questions for you as well. And of course, if you are someone who has absolutely everything unlocked, then maybe leave something down in the comments that I may have missed for other people to work towards as well, as I will just be covering the main things that you'll want to have on your account done before you get into bosses. But anyway, if you enjoy the video, if it helped you out in any way whatsoever, make sure to leave a like on it. You guys know where that like button is, make sure you press it. And also, if you do enjoy the video and you are new to the channel, do subscribe, as there will be a lot more stuff coming out in the near future. But anyway, that's enough for the intro. Let's get going, shall we? I actually just wanted to quickly add before we get started. I started a clan up in game, so if you are interested in joining another part of the community where you can get involved with myself and of course everybody else as well, then do drop me a message in Discord or in game, or just guest in the clan. It's called the Inits, and if you are wanting an invite to the clan, then just give myself or one of the other ranks a message and we will happily get you invited into the clan. It's very, very small at the moment. This is the first video I've mentioned it in, but I do hope to see plenty of people join in, and I do feel it will be absolutely awesome to see all of you there. So if you are interested, you guys know my username, send me a PM. My private is always going to be set to on from now on, so send me a PM and I'll get you invited. So getting into PvM, there's actually many things that you want to get done with your account before you do so. Some of these things are going to be a lot more effort than others, some of them are going to be very quick, and some of them are going to be very expensive. They all, however, are very useful to do, and I would absolutely recommend that you do most of the stuff that's going to be in this video before you do actually get into PvM. I'm not saying you have to do all of it, you absolutely don't. You could even go with a friend and they could probably drag you through and carry you through most bosses, and you could definitely get some money that way as well to help you get these things. So you can definitely still do stuff, but for example, if you wanted to go and do some solo PvM, or if you wanted to go and be on an even playing field with other people when you do go and do PvM, then most of the stuff in this video will absolutely be stuff you want to get prior to going. There'll also be a little bit of a section at the end where I'll include useful items that will probably be touched over pretty quick. Those won't be absolutely necessary, but there will be incredibly useful items that you'll probably use for the rest of your time while you are doing PvM. So let's start off with the things that you're going to absolutely want to have before you start doing PvM. These are the things that are going to help you out a hell of a lot, and I'll also explain why you want to get them, because I know that you don't want to just have this goal, like me tell you, oh, go and get this, and then you guys like, why though? Why am I doing this? I know I'm doing this big long grind because Init told me to, and he said I need to do this. So what? But why? Why am I doing it? So I'm going to tell you that as well. Don't worry, you'll understand why you need specific things too. So don't worry about that. Okay, so let's talk about the skills and the levels that you're going to want to get before we talk about things like unlocks and items, and we'll explain why you want these, of course, because what's going to be incredibly useful for you to get into bosses is, for one, to have good combat stats, of course, because you're going to want to at least be able to do damage to these bosses and stand a fighting chance. Now, these ones are pretty obvious, but what I would recommend having before you actually get into big bosses is having at least 90 in whichever combat style you prefer to go with. So say, for example, you wanted to do a Raxor. I'd probably recommend having 90 range on this boss, and the same goes with places like Nex, and really any boss you want to try. I'd recommend having at least 90 range, and also probably 90 defense would be nice as well, because having that level 90 in the combat style you want is going to allow you to actually use level 90 weapons as well. I'll talk about these later on because they're going to be really, really useful to have. However, I would recommend having level 90 in the combat style because it's definitely going to help out a lot if you can get your hands on those weapons that are level 90. The same goes for whichever combat style you choose though, so just work on getting those 90 stats, and if you can, get your hands on a tier 90 weapon as well. Other skills that you're going to want to have is absolutely going to be Herblore to 96. Now, you can get away with 91. Don't panic if you're thinking 96, that's going to be so freaking expensive. 91's still going to be quite expensive, but it's not going to be quite as much. So you can go to 91 and then get boosted to 96. This will just allow you to make overloads. Now, overloads are incredibly useful potions. These will boost your stats up and keep them boosted as well. And these allow you to use Saradam and Brews as food as well to keep your health topped up nicely. But of course, the main focus of these is the actual extra levels that you do get out of it. These are incredibly good for boosting your stats, and you'll absolutely rely on these when you are doing bossing. So I can highly recommend that you do get overloads unlocked before you get into high level bossing. It will help you out so much. Another skill that you're going to want to level up quite a bit is going to be prayer. You're going to be using prayer a lot throughout bosses. You're going to be using it all the time, using it for protection curses, using it for soul split, and also using it for damage boosts as well. Now, with prayer, you're going to want to complete the quest line, the Temple at Celestine. This quest does have a lot of prerequisites. However, once you get it done, you unlock a new prayer book, which is called Ancient Curses, and this will have the best prayers in the game for you right here. Now, you will have to unlock 95 prayer to get the most use out of this for the curses that come available in the book already, and while that does sound quite high, it is absolutely worth working towards. Now, you don't need 95 to get into bossing. You can still use your protection curses, but I would highly recommend getting your ancient curses unlocked through the Temple at Celestine and then working on 95 prayer. It can be quite expensive. If you do it with Dragon Bones, it will probably cost you about 50 mil depending where you're starting, and if you do it with Frost Dragon Bones or Dinosaur Bones, for example, the price is going to go up a lot. It will be a lot faster, but the price will jump. The curses at level 95 are called Turmoil, Anguish, and Torment. These are all going to buff your damage and accuracy by a lot, so you absolutely do want to have this unlocked because it does do so much for you and your bosses. The last skill that I would recommend working on before you get into PvM, there's plenty more that you're going to want to do after, but before you start doing PvM, I would recommend leveling up your summoning. Now, this is a great skill for PvM. You're going to be using familiars that will carry food for you to places, so especially if you're learning, it's definitely worth bringing these. They help you out eating through mechanics so you can get used to them, and they just allow it so you can stay in that fight long enough to actually figure out how it works. There's different levels of these, and I will mention that in just a second, but the other familiars sort of things that you're going to be using is ones that buff your accuracy and ones that buff your damage as well. So these are worth unlocking, and honestly, you'll be using them all the time. As you get towards endgame, you'll probably stick to about 3 different familiars, but getting your summoning up is going to be absolutely useful. So what I would recommend doing is getting at least 67 summoning. This will unlock the War Tortoise. This is going to be able to carry 18 items for you, and it's actually pretty good. Level 67 summoning isn't too hard to get, and honestly, being able to bring 18 more pieces of food to a boss fight while you're learning is going to be incredibly useful for that level of summoning. That's what I would recommend having before you start doing PvM for summoning. However, you can work towards level 87. This will give you nihils. Nihils will have different styles. So for example, there is a ice nihil, there is a smoke nihil, a shadow nihil, and a blood nihil. Now all of these will represent different combat styles. For example, the blood nihil is for melee, the shadow nihil is for range, and then the other 2 are both for magic. Not only do these help you attack specific bosses where it is available to do so, but they also buff your accuracy as a passive effect. So you're going to be hitting the boss more, you're going to be splashing a lot less. It is really, really useful to have. And honestly, if you're planning on doing next, then I would highly recommend having a nihil with you, because making your accuracy next a lot better is just something you want to do. But those are level 87, and after those, you're probably going to work towards a pack yak. These can hold 30 items for you, so 30 more pieces of food, or whatever you want to put in it, I guess, but these are 96 summoning. This will take a lot of time and money to get towards, but eventually it is going to be worth your time getting. But like I say, the War Tortoise will probably be absolutely fine while you're learning bosses for a beast of burden with your food, so don't panic if you think that 96 summoning is just way too far off in the future. So that covers the actual skills that I would recommend getting to a certain level and unlocking. You want to eventually work towards unlocking Invention. This will allow you to put perks on your gear, and it will definitely help out a hell of a lot. But getting into PvM, you do not need Invention. It helps, it absolutely helps, but you don't absolutely need it. You'll be okay without it, but keep it in mind because it is really good to unlock later on. So with the skills covered, let's move on to things that you're actually going to want to have unlocked in the game before you get started. Alright, so a quest that you're going to want to have before you get into PvM is going to be the World Wakes quest. This is super useful and you will absolutely want to have this. You can definitely go through some boss fights without it, but I would highly recommend getting it. If you're using range or magic, you need this. It is just so damn good. So what this does is it will give you the ultimate abilities Sunshine and Death Swiftness. These will both boost your damage by 50% when you're in the circles that they both put down. So for example, Death Swiftness puts down a smoke cloud that goes around in the circle around you. If you're inside this, you get the buff. And also if you are using magic and you use Sunshine, then it'll put like a beam of light down in a circle, and the same thing applies. If you're inside the circle, then you get an extra 50% damage buff, and it's absolutely huge. You'll be using this ultimate ability more than most ultimates in the game, as most DPS rotations do rely on you using a Death Swiftness or a Sunshine to start, and then you'll use an Adrenaline Potion and build up to thresholds from there. That is something else for a different video. However, you will be wanting to get these unlocked before you get into bosses, especially if you plan on using range or magic. It's probably worth me mentioning to you guys actually that the World Wakes quest looks like it has a ton of requirements, but to get these abilities, it doesn't. To get additional rewards, you do have to do quite a lot of quests and get those done, but you can do the World Wakes base quest and get the Death Swiftness and the Sunshine without putting in all the extra requirements and stuff like that. There's none at all. You can go and get this done as soon as you have some combat levels. Don't go without the combat levels, you will be fighting some bosses. I want to quickly re-mention the Template Celestine for anyone who may have clicked through the timestamps to come to this section specifically. The Template Celestine is incredibly useful. It will unlock the ancient curses for you, and this is the better prayer book than the other one, and you will absolutely want to get 95 prayer eventually, so you can use the extra damage boosts as well. And of course, having deflect, magic, melee and range is a lot better than just having protection as well. But definitely get the Template Celestine unlocked before you start PvM as well, because getting those ancient curses are absolutely useful. Some ability unlocks that I would recommend you guys have as well before you get into bossing. These aren't too difficult to get in all honesty, so it's just definitely worth getting them before you start if you have the access to it. So one of them is going to be Devotion and Sacrifice. Now, what Devotion does is it will make your prayers 100% effective while this is active. So when you're taking a lot of damage in a boss fight, you can use Devotion, and whatever style the boss is hitting you with, if you have protection from that on, it will literally do no damage for you for that duration. It's super useful. There's some other things with it as well, but there's a defense guide. I'll link it in the card now above, and you can click on that if you want to learn more about the defensive abilities. Sacrifice heals you based on how much damage you dealt to the enemy when you use the ability. However, if you finish off a target with this, it will heal you for the full amount of damage that you did as well. While you're learning, it can be useful to get that little health back here and there. However, it's not an ability you'll probably be using later on. These, however, are both dropped together, and you can get it from General Grado or Kriara. These are bosses in God Wars 1, nice and easy to do. They're not a boss that you'll probably struggle with. You can get it from their bodyguards as well, which is basically the things you would use for kill count to get into the room. So this is worth doing. It's definitely worth getting. It's super useful. The next ability that I would recommend you unlock are from a Mazcab ability codex. You unlock this just from buying it on the Grand Exchange, and they usually cost about 42 mil each at the moment. That might sound quite expensive. However, these abilities are super useful as they are bleed attacks, and these definitely do a lot of damage. Also, it's an area of effect bleed, so you'll cast it on one target and then it spreads to any nearby ones as well. Definitely worth getting. These are really useful. The range one is called Corruption Shot and the magic one is called Corruption Blast. If you can get your hands on these before PvM, definitely do so. If you can't, then don't panic too much. You can still go without it, but they will help you out a lot. So with all that unlocks and stuff done, that's pretty much the baseline of what your account needs to actually get into PvM and do some high level PvM. So if you've got most of that, or if you can work towards that, then that is what you need. Now that will take a while to get. It definitely will. You're going to need to make money to buy stuff like your herb lore supplies and all that good stuff. But honestly, those upgrades and those unlocks are absolutely worth doing. The only thing that's left really to talk about is gear. Now with gear, I would highly recommend having tier 90 weapons if you can, but if you can't, then you can get the tier 85 weapons. These are absolutely fine as well. Things like Shadow Glaives and the Orb and Wand of the Swear Elders. These are really useful weapons because they give the accuracy of tier 90 weapons, but the damage of tier 80. So you'll be doing less damage, but having the tier 90 accuracy is so damn good. So I would highly recommend, if you don't have the money for tier 90s yet, get these to begin with. Do some lower level bosses. You can do a Raxor with things like a Shadow Glaive. You can do Next with Shadow Glaive as well. It'll be difficult, but you can definitely still do it. But once you can, I would highly recommend upgrading to level 90 weapons. They do help out a lot, and honestly, you can use these all the way through to the late game at the moment. As for armor, honestly, you could probably just stay with the God Wars 1 armors. These will honestly be absolutely fine until quite a lot later in the game, so don't panic too much about upgrading these. Always upgrade your weapons first, as these will lead to doing a lot more damage, and honestly, damage equals easier kills, because the faster you can get the kill done, then the faster you're out of there and the less food you need to use. Other than that, basically, I just wanted to go over now a quick list of stuff that are really useful to unlock, like certain items that are really good to have. So let's do that now, and then that's pretty much going to be it for this video. So these items are by no means necessary. You don't have to have them. I would recommend you do get them at some point, and I'm sure at some point you will get them. But to begin with, you're not going to need them. You don't need these to get into PvM. It's absolutely fine. Okay, so the first one is going to be an enhanced Excalibur. Now what this does is it will heal you over time, and all you need to do to use it is just right click it and press activate. It's super useful for saving you food throughout a fight. You can use it once every 5 minutes, and it will just keep your health nice and high in certain situations. So it's definitely worth looking this up and seeing what requirements you do need for it. Another item is the Ring of Vigor. You get this from doing dungeoneering and getting dungeoneering tokens. It'll cost you 50,000 tokens, which isn't all that much to be honest, but when you use an ultimate, if you have this equipped, you'll save yourself 10% adrenaline. This is super useful for when you use Death Swift and Sunshine and Berserk, any ultimate really, just for getting back to threshold so you can put out more damage. When you're learning bosses, you're going to want to use the practice mode when you are going in like absolutely clueless, but once you've learned it a little bit, you may still be dying here and there, so a Ring of Death is a super useful item to get at some point, as it will reduce your death cost by quite a lot. Keep in mind though that this ring does have basically a set value to deaths, so you want to check that your death actually does cost more normally than using this ring, because if you use this and your death cost is like 800k, then you're actually kind of making it worse on yourself. But once your death costs do start increasing, then just keep this ring in mind, because it is really, really useful. I still use it, and hell, mine gets a lot of use, to be fair. Next, I'd recommend unlocking Bladed Dive from Shattered Worlds. This is super useful. It's like a surge ability, but for melee. You can, however, use it on any combat style as long as you bring a dual wield weapons, but having mobility like Surge and Bladed Dive is super useful in a lot of bosses. Alright, so there's definitely more things that could be mentioned, but for the sake of keeping this video not stupidly long, we are going to end the video here. So if there's anything that I missed, guys, then get in the comments down below, share them there, and people can find more useful information. It's always awesome when you guys do that. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it, and do subscribe if you are new to the channel. Also, I wanted to mention, I've started a clan in-game for all of you guys to join. It's still fairly small, as this is the first video I've mentioned it in, but guys, if you're interested in joining my clan and having another part of the community to get involved in, then message me in-game or message any of the people whose usernames are on screen, and they will get you an invite. Jump in the Discord and DM me as well if that's easier for you. And also, of course, guys, if you're in the clan and you don't want to leave, don't feel like you have to leave, you are absolutely more than welcome to just guest and get involved in the chat that way too. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all of my current channel members. We have Kezlogger, it's OP Harambe, Jax, Maka, Sam, and Andy V. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. If anyone else is interested in this, there's a join button, by the sub button, give that a click, and you can see what perks you do get while you do support the channel as well.